Good morning, everyone. This is the Conservation Advisory Group meeting for Cascade Natural Gas. We are in Q1 of 2023. I appreciate everyone attending our meetings. Of course, your membership, as always, is greatly appreciated and helps our programs achieve those goals that we've set out for ourselves in the next couple of years. We've got some new members of our advisory group, and we've got a couple of guests that are going to be joining us today as well to present on our evaluation, measurement, and verification efforts that are just kicking off this month. So before we go too far in depth, I would ask Des to just kind of speak up about the recording so that everybody knows.
Yes, when we do these meetings, I do start the recording, and I also do the transcription, which I currently have on. So just wanted to let everybody know this is being recorded.
Thank you, Des. I appreciate it. So we've got, I'm going to start with the safety meeting, and then we'll do our introductions. Not meeting, it's safety moment. I just want to make sure I don't forget to do that. So today's safety moment is staircase safety. I created this lovely little icon-based graphic for demonstration purposes, but avoid distractions when you're on a staircase, one step at a time, please. Take it slow. Obviously, never run. Don't rush down those stairs. Wear appropriate footwear. Avoid carrying vision blocking loads, and hold on to the handrail when using those stairs. Always important to be safe, even if you've gone up and down that staircase multiple times. Just always be cognizant every time, up or down. So, all right. So from an introduction perspective, everyone knows I'm assuming everybody knows, but Monica Collishaw, I manage Cascade's energy efficiency programs for Washington State. I am excited to be able to welcome some new folks to our call today, and just as excited to have our existing members attend with us as well. Looks like we've got a really good participation today. So what I'd like to actually do is just kind of go down my list alphabetically. Sometimes that's the easiest for me to make sure that I capture everybody. If you'd like to jump on video for the introduction part, that would be lovely. If you're not comfortable, I'm not going to force you to do it. As we go through the meeting, if you want to jump on video when you have questions or anything like that, please feel free. It helps. We probably won't have the video going the whole time because I want to be able to focus on the slide, and everybody doesn't want to see me the whole next 3 hours. But I'll also make sure that we do get a break midway in our meeting. It's a 3-hour meeting. I know that's a lot of time. So I want to make sure everyone gets like a 10 to 15 minute break. And I'll ask Jocelyn to help me keep track of that and keep me honest. Before I jump into those introductions, any questions, comments, concerns with audio or visual or any of the presentation materials we've sent along today? Okay, I'm not hearing anything. If you do have some concerns, feel free to send an email to Desiree. I don't have my email on because I didn't want it to interrupt my meeting presentation here, but Teams message as well in the chat would work just great, and we'll be able to assist as we can. Thank you so much. Adam, actually, would you mind introducing yourself?
Hi, my name's Adam Thomas with ADM Associates. I'm a principal at the firm here. Worked at the company since 2008, and I had our business unit that does ADM's evaluation work in the Pacific Northwest, though I myself am based in the San Francisco Bay Area.
Thank you, Adam. We're really excited to welcome you and to kick off those evaluation, measurement, and verification efforts for Cascade. Appreciate your attendance. Amy.
Hey. Sorry, it took a minute to get off mute. Hi, everyone. I'm Amy Wheelis. I am with the Northwest Energy Coalition, based in Seattle, working on energy efficiency policy.
Thank you, Amy. Desiree.
Hello, I am the Conservation Support Specialist for the Energy Efficiency Department, and happy to be here.
Thank you, Des.
All right.
And Des is she tracks all of our meetings. She makes sure we're all invited. She does so much in the background, but she doesn't get enough recognition for it. So thank you, Des, for the assistance on that. I really appreciate it. Lexi.
Hello, everyone. My name is Lexi Bright. I am the Energy Efficiency Analyst Outreach Coordinator, and I joined the team in July. And I was an intern 2 years ago.
We're so glad to have you back, Lexi. Thank you. Carrie.
Good morning, everyone. I'm the Cascade Natural Gas Energy Efficiency Supervisor.
Thank you, Carrie. Corey, I see you, but I'm not hearing you.
That would help if I unmuted. Thank you. This is Corey. I'm an analyst with the Public Counsel Unit of the Washington Attorney General's Office.
Thank you, Corey. Ashton.
Hey, everybody. Ashton here, economist with Cascade.
Thank you, Ashton. Brady.
Good morning, everyone. Brady Day with TRC. We manage the Commercial Industrial Program for Cascade's Energy Efficiency Program.
Thank you, Brady. Gil.
Hi, this is Gil Peach. We do studies sometimes for Cascade. And we also do studies for other utilities and for government bureaus.
Thank you, Gil. Jade.
Good morning, everyone. This is Jade Jarvis, Regulatory Analyst with the Washington UTC.
Thank you, Jade. And Ty.
I am with Cascade. I am a newly created position in our public affairs team. I am the building code specialist, so my background comes from being a prior code official. Excited to be a part of this group. Thank you.
Thank you, Ty. We're excited to welcome Ty to our Conservation Advisory Group. It's a definitely a needed skill set and knowledge base. So we're really happy to have you and appreciate your partnership. Pardeep.
Hello, my name is Pradeep Kaur and I'm a rebate processor at Cascade Natural Gas, Bellingham.
Thank you, Pardeep. And Sheila.
Good morning. This is Sheila McElhinney. I'm Senior Analyst with the Energy Efficiency Department at Cascade Natural Gas. I've been with the program since 2013.
Thank you, Sheila. Devin.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Devin McGreal, Senior Resource Planning Economist here with Cascade.
Thanks, Devin. Welcome. Taylor.
Good morning. My name is Taylor. I'm a support specialist and I handle all of the design creation for Cascade.
Thank you, Taylor. And Melissa.
Hi, my name is Melissa Culbertson. I'm a director with ADM and I'm supporting the evaluation with Adam.
Thank you, Melissa. Great to have you. Jocelyn.
Good morning. My name is Jocelyn Moore. I am an energy efficiency support specialist with Cascade Natural Gas.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Jocelyn's helping me on the back end with some logistics today as well. So thank you for that support. Noemi.
Good morning, Noemi Ortiz, Energy Efficiency Manager for Oregon State.
Very happy to have you, Noemi. Noemi's going to be a contributor moving forward through our program. She is taking on the role that Alan Spector performed as far as our low-income programs for both Washington and Oregon. So Noemi's a partner now for me in being able to present on the low-income section of our Conservation Advisory Group meeting. So very happy to have you on board. And Mike.
Good morning, everyone. Mike Parvinen with Cascade's regulatory team.
Thank you, Mike. Peter.
Yeah, good morning, Monica. Hi, everyone. My name is Peter Kristelite, and I manage the natural gas portfolio at NEA.
Morning, Peter. Thank you. Stephanie.
Good morning. Stephanie Reed, Conservation Support Specialist for Bellingham.
Thank you, Stephanie. Caleb.
Yeah, good morning, everyone. My name is Caleb Brammer. I'm the Economic Analyst for Cascade's EE Department. So happy to be here.
Thank you, Caleb. Brian.
Hey, good morning, everyone. Brian Robertson, Supervisor of Resource Planning here at Cascade.
Brian. Ross.
Hi, yeah, Ross Quigley, Acting Director of the Energy Project, and we work with utilities to ensure adequate resources to address energy burden in low-income communities.
Great to have you, Ross. Thank you. Mark.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Mark Sellers-Vaughn, Manager of Supply Resource Planning. Work with the integrated resource plans in Idaho, Oregon, and Washington, and gas supply analytics.
Thank you, Mark. John.
Hey, thank you, Monica. Good morning, everyone. My name is John Storvik. I'm energy efficiency analyst with Cascade Natural Gas.
Thank you, John. And Sonia.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Sonia Walden, the manager of customer systems for Montana Dakota Utilities and Cascade and Intermountain and all the utilities.
Thank you for joining us, Sonia.
You bet.
Cascade is extending out our internal support for our advisory group meetings. Sonia was kind enough to join us on the helps with our requirements on the IT side. So we're doing a lot more with the evaluation, measurement, verification, and our behavior pilot, and a lot of things that are touching on that side of the shop. So Sonia's been kind enough to participate on our behalf and make sure that we're getting covered on that side as well. Same kind of situation with Ty, making sure that we're covering all our bases and not having siloed efforts within our internal department. So it's been a great partnership. I really appreciate it. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to move on our agenda here. We got, well, actually, I didn't have a slide for this one. So I'm going to go back to the safety slide. In the meantime, we will talk about hop over to my agenda real quick. So I just want to look at the meeting minutes from our last meeting. I know it was back in October. That's kind of hard to go backwards that far, right, after the holidays and everything. But just as a reminder to what I'm going to do here, sorry. I'm going to share the meeting minutes briefly from our last meeting, but I'm going to do that. Let's see here. Okay, so our agenda, everybody should have a copy of the agenda. Des, are you able to see the agenda?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So on the agenda, we actually include a link to our website. That website shows the video from our last meeting. So if anyone wants to look at the previous meeting minutes, you can actually watch the whole 3-hour video if you'd like to do that. Or Des is kind enough to do a synopsis of our meeting minutes and send that out as well to our advisory group following each meeting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to touch on our meeting minutes here. I actually have the link pulled up as well for our website, but I don't think I need to look at that right now unless anyone wants me to jump to it. But if we look at the meeting minutes from October 5th, I just want to stop and ask, were there any questions, comments, or corrections from the advisory group on these meeting minutes that were sent out? I think it was in December that we, maybe November or December that we sent them out. Not hearing anything. If there are any corrections, recommendations for update, please let us know. We'll be happy to do that for the records moving forward. But just as a reminder, we had, obviously we did our safety moment. We talked about just safety tips for October. I think it was about Halloween. So anyway, we also talked about our quarterly portfolio update on the commercial side and the residential side. We do that every meeting. We also looked at our, let's see, it was the where we were at from our therms, how many rebates we were getting in, performance to goal, that kind of thing we talked about for Q3. And then we talked about our low-income weatherization program. We updated you on the program numbers. We also looked at the behavioral pilot, or excuse me, the pilots that we were going to be working on in the new year as part of our biennial conservation plan. One of those was that behavioral residential program pilot. I'm going to touch on that today as well. We had guests from EnergyX on the call to kind of explain what that effort is, what the goal was behind it, what some of the steps were going to be. And that's actually where we've been working quite a bit with Sonia and our internal team on being able to get that kicked off. So we'll talk about that a little bit more later. We also are starting our aero barrier pilot. John's going to touch base on that today for an update as well, but we talked about that in October, what the plans were, what we were looking at, the budget for that pilot, etc. And then we talked about our commercial pilots, and Brady was kind enough to touch base on each of these. Radiant heating focus, we talked about underserved customers. We talked about demand control, kitchen hood makeup air units. And then we moved on to our budget update. Per our biennial conservation plan, we have a requirement to notify the advisory group if we are looking at our budget being below 80% or above 120% of the BCP goals. So we talked about that. And then we did an update from the integrated resources plan, the different advisory groups, when it will be filed, when the draft was out. So I'm sure that if need be, if anyone has questions, I'm going to put Brian on the spot, but I bet Brian can probably answer them on that front. And then we are kicking off our EM&D process as well. And that's the folks that we have on the call today. Very excited to have Adam and Melissa to talk to the group about our plans for that EM&D. And then we talked about our cadence for our meetings in the new year. So this is a Teams meeting. Our Q2 is going to be both in person and via Teams. Q3 is likely via Teams. We're going to actually have a mid BCP planning meeting in August, and that'll be via Teams. And then we'll have another in-person meeting for our Q4 meeting. Always have a Teams option as well, of course, for those who aren't able to attend in person. So any questions, comments before I move away from the meeting minute? Okay, great. Thank you. I'm going to go back to our lovely slides here. All right. Oh, okay. Yep. Peter has a good comment. When you're going down the stairs, don't be looking at your phone. That actually is a great addition. I probably should have added that in here because I've seen that many a time, and I've actually gotten after my daughter for that repeatedly. So back to our CAG agenda. What I would like to do, let's see here, we are going to start with our EM&D project update. So I'm going to hand it off to Caleb to lead this part of the discussion, and we're going to welcome, as I mentioned, Adam and Melissa to go through this process with us. Thank you, Caleb. Go for it.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Monica, as well as the ADM folks that are joining us on the phone call this morning. So I just want to give a quick reminder of the process to date. Those on the phone call might recall that in the past meeting, we discussed the EM&V project, what we've done so far in the past, what we've done going forward. At that time, we submitted an RFP out for review. We got some great recommendations, some great options. In our opinion, ADM's proposal was the most thorough, the most complete, and seemed to really accomplish what we're looking for, as well as some opportunities to have years 2 through 4 in the process be completed for us as well. So with that, I'm just going to introduce the ADM team here. We were fortunate to meet in Bellingham in person for most of an afternoon, actually, to discuss the process, iron out the details and answer any questions our team has. So we feel fully informed and quite happy and confident with the work that we provided for us. I see Adam's got his camera on here, so I'm going to kick it off to him and introduce the team.
Adam, just let me know when you'd like me to switch slides, please.
Okay, sure. Yeah, we can just go ahead and go to the next slide here. I'm joined by my colleague Melissa Culbertson, and as the two representatives from ADM here today. As in our intros, I head our business unit that does our evaluation work in your region, and Melissa is the head of our regional office in Portland. Our work in the areas for a number of Washington utilities, Avista, Pacific Power. We've also recently completed work for NEA and for the Northwest Power and Conservation Council Regional Technical Forum, and additionally for Idaho Power and for the Energy Trust of Oregon. So what I'm providing here today is just a couple slides outlining what is going to be in the scope of our first deliverable for the CNGC EM&V for their group. So if we want to go to the next slide. As outlined in the RFP, the year one deliverables are going to be examining space heating, water heating, envelope, food service, and custom. And I'm aware that my slides were copied and pasted here, hence, and I neglected to put a space between food and service on that bullet. And we always look back in horror at our own slides. Okay, initially from there in our meeting in Bellingham, there was some scope refinement because it was a little nebulous at first of looking at this from a traditional sort of annual M&V. What is the performance programs in program year 2022 versus what came out of sort of our scope refinement was a refocusing of this to look at multiple years of data to develop where feasible with the available participants and data, revised deemed savings estimates grounded in actual equipment performance and billing data where possible. So that's going to be the emphasis of our first deliverable. And if we want to go to the next slide, that's where we start with some discussion of specifics. So we're space heating, water heating, and building envelope. Primarily the space heating being the biggest portion of the commercial measure groups. We are going to be examining billing data for 3 years of participants. Some projects are going to be analyzed on a sort of pre-post basis, based essentially IPMVP option C, which will be used to characterize savings for projects that are early replacement, i.e. the replacement of functioning equipment, or equipment sort of system type changes, such as conversions from forced air furnaces to radiant heating. For replace on burnout type of projects, our general approach is going to be to take projects that have post data and do a post-only billing data analysis to determine load hours. In that mode, we use the post-installation billing data and take the known capacity and efficiency of the system that's been installed to sort of back out what are the load hours for the projects that have gone into the CNGC program, and then calculate savings based off of those load hours. The system's efficiency compared to minimum code. We don't do pre and post on this because when you do an IPMVP option C, you're inherently assuming everything is early replacement because you're taking the pre-existing data and not the code. So that's going to be how we're characterizing space heating projects. I'm going to skip to my third block because building envelope follows a very similar pattern where we are doing pre and post billing data analysis, but from which we are going to then forecast what savings are for various R values, basically to develop new deemed savings that are in line with how the program would need to be implemented under updated codes, and allowing for the testing of new requirements, such as, okay, what if a program requires R49 instead of R38 to qualify? And then lastly, for water heating, there are facility types where as convenient, you can use the summer baseload gas data and do a post-only analysis to devise a domestic hot water load or DHW load. It's not always feasible to do so. For example, if you have a restaurant facility, there's multiple other gas base loads, but also sort of devising from this, supplementing this with a literature review of available primary research on domestic hot water loads to develop, a larger library of savings estimates by facility type. Lastly, on water heating, we're going to really take a look in how, the characterization of tankless system retrofits. It's been our finding that these are very often multiple units installed in sequence to replace a larger tank is a pretty common occurrence, as all the tankless systems you'll see installed are going to be at 199,999 BTU, and they'll link up as many of them as necessary to satisfy the load. And so our research approach is going to attempt to account for that and characterize the savings from the tank to tankless type of single tank to multiple tankless type of conversions as well. I have one more slide on the remaining items. Food service. So first, we're going to examine measures that were affected by recent codes and standards updates, particularly fryers, steamers, and dishwashers. We've seen a fair bit of growth in the efficiency of these types of systems. I mean, primarily people might think of cooking efficiency, but really you're looking at improvements in idle BTU is where the kind of the rubber meets the road for savings on these. So we're going to be testing to see if there's cost-effective premium efficiency options for these above and beyond, that might still provide cost-effective savings above and beyond the updated code that resulted in the measure's disposition, in its present disposition, being disqualified from program implementation. We have a library of equipment actual inputs for cooking efficiency, idle BTU, and preheat BTU, which we're going to be, drawing on that to compare system performance to defaults that might be in place as these are implemented as prescriptive measures, and also identifying updates in the industry for where new measures can be potentially added. As there have been testing, there's now performance testing completed in California, and then located in the California DEER for under fire broilers, conveyor broilers, and range tops. Lastly, we are analyzing the commercial custom, not the industrial custom, solely the commercial custom. That's going to look most like a traditional evaluation in that we're examining a sample of projects, stratifying and extrapolating, and here's your savings. Having not seen the tracking data for that yet, I can't give specifics over what types of projects are going to occur and what that analysis will look like. But again, one of the biggest takeaways we're going to try and get out of that is to provide guidance of if there's a shortfall in savings on a project, what processes can be changed in implementation to drill down better on any specific problem areas that might be found in the evaluation. And that's really the sort of 10,000 foot view of what our first deliverable is going to look like, and welcome any questions or any areas where you'd like me to expound further.
Yeah, we'll take just a couple of seconds here so individuals on the call can kind of gather their thoughts and digest this information. Thanks again, Adam, for presenting this. There's a lot to be taken care of for us here, a lot to be going on in the future as well. As we're gathering our thoughts, I just want to provide just a quick update and a reminder of what this overall process looks like and why we're conducting this once again. So as a reminder, this process that we're conducting with ADM currently that we're discussing, it's going to be slightly different than the process evaluation, which will come at the end of the BCP, which we'll be conducting here at the end of the year. This is going to be more so a study on the measures and the savings assumptions as required in recent conditions document of the last BCP. So this is going to be a breakdown of most likely 4 years to separate a program into 4 different segments. The first segment, as Adam mentioned, is this commercial segment, talking about the food service and the other categories that we mentioned. Next, we're looking at the next 2 years, likely breaking up a residential program into more of the equipment-based as well as the envelope-based measures in year 3, and then likely concluding that 4th year with our industrial program. That'll satisfy that portion we're looking at, as well as be slightly separated, but also informing of the process evaluation that'll be taken care of with the BCP here coming up. Any questions for Adam on the content that he's presented so far?
One question I have, Caleb, and I don't know if it's a question so much, but I want to give our advisory group an opportunity to let us know what aspects of this EM&D study they want to have opportunity to weigh in on. Or where within that process they would like us to send out notifications of, this is where we're at, or this is what we're doing. We do have the existing timeline on when we think that it's going to be, roughly when it's going to be completed. It should be completed. You can kick me under the table here, Caleb, but I think that our goal is before the end of Q2. I think that's accurate, right? Assuming everything goes to plan. We still have, some requirements gathering and everything, data on the back end that we're doing to meet those goals. We'll make sure, per our BCP requirements, that we are notifying the advisory group. But if there's anyone specifically within the advisory group who has areas that you want to weigh in on as we're looking at this evaluation of our measures, please let us know. Maybe that's a to-do, Des, for anyone who has specific questions, comments, considerations as we dive into this EM&D study. If you could forward them to either myself or potentially Des as our logistics guru, we'll make sure to follow up with ADM and keep our advisory group informed of the process as we move forward.
Yeah, thanks, Monica. With that, perhaps we can navigate onto the next section here. I'd like to once again just thank the ADM team with Adam and Melissa for joining us on this phone call. Definitely understand if different time constraints or schedules require you to hop off the phone call here in a couple minutes. So thanks for joining us here.
Of course, and glad to share. And if anyone wants to follow up via email, of course, we welcome any questions from the group.
Thank you, Caleb. We're going to circle back around on the other areas that you're going to be leading our discussion. So I think right now we're going to transition to our quarterly update. This is a little bit more of a quarterly / end of year update as we look at the program progress to goal for our commercial industrial, and then we'll also talk about the residential as well. Brady, are you available to lead this part of the discussion?
I am indeed.
Great, thank you, sir.
So the program in Q4 achieved 133,390 therms saved for customers, and 290. As Monica always prefaces, we have end of the year kind of rerunning everything that we will be doing over the next couple of weeks to couple of months to do more measure data specifically. So these are approximate but pretty good approximations. So 133,390 therms in Q4 and $290,942 in incentives to customers. So we had a very good Q4 on the commercial side. A lot of it was due to some projects that we had identified as closing earlier in the year being delayed due to supply chain challenges and just getting equipment and having folks for these contractors in place to be able to actually implement or install, the equipment. So a really good Q4. Which was slightly overshadowed by an overall lower year than we were expecting. The program, as stated here, achieved 289,919 therms. Short of our goal, we hit about 69% of the commercial goal for 2022. We did see a bit of a drop in standard projects. This is the first time we've had a bit of a drop in standard project over previous years. Still diving into why and how the changes in market and analyzing that. We have done a fair bit of that and have kind of changed our strategy accordingly going into 2023. But that is just kind of probably my biggest takeaway from 2022 is both seeing larger custom projects as we have a much more aggressive goal in 2023, but also building up that floor for standard projects in 2023. I will be, as Monica mentioned, we'll be diving into, measure performance specifically to pilots in 2022, getting an understanding of where we saw increases based on pilot activity, and more of an investment in hard to reach areas, radiant heating, just as a couple of examples. But we're also really optimistic about 2023 on a couple of fronts. And I don't necessarily want to dive into 2023 yet or at all, up to you all, but happy to answer any questions on 2022 and any potential clarifications I can make on the graphics that have been provided.
I think we will speak to 2023 as well, Brady, but we're having a little further in our meeting. We're going to be talking about the annual plan and some of those things that we're doing for the 2023 program year as we move forward. So Brady just kind of gave the quarterly as well as the end of year. As he said, I'm going to reiterate, we have not performed our annual report yet. John's going to be kind of discussing what that process is and where we're at in that. That annual report is a multi-step process where we reconcile, where we double check and make sure all the program savings are, allocated correctly. All of those admin costs have been allocated correctly to the different programs that we offer throughout our portfolio. And then we go through and we verify what the cost effectiveness was of the programs based on those reconciled projects and accounts and everything. So it's not something we can do right away. It's something we take quite a bit of time to make sure that everything's ticked and tied and the year is tied out. So that actually is a deliverable by early summer. But in the meantime, we obviously do all the work on the back end to make sure that we're working with Brady's team and everything. So all that is these are, as he said, really good estimates on savings for the year. Final numbers TBD. Any questions, comments on the commercial side? Not hear anything yet. What I would like to do now is to show Brady if we can do this a little bit of outreach. I only did two of the visuals, but Jocelyn's actually available to play this case study for us if you want to kind of preface what it is first, and then she's volunteered to play it for the advisory group here.
So Lexi with the Cascade Natural Gas team, Todd Blackman, who is our local business development representative for the commercial industrial program, and myself went to Pasco. Well, Todd lives in Pasco, so but we participated in a case study on 2 fire stations that we did some work at. Radiant heating, as we've talked about, is one of the measures where we still see continued opportunity for growth. And Jocelyn can play it, but I can give you a little bit of background. We met with the fire chief of Pasco Fire. He oversees all of the fire stations, but was integral in getting high efficient gas equipment in. So they, in these 2 particular stations, they installed radiant heating and in one a tankless unit and in another a domestic hot water, but all 3 measures were high efficiency. So Jocelyn, if you want to play that, if it works.
I ran into a technical difficulty. I will in half a minute.
Okay. It's always a wild card. But it's a cool experience. One of the things, because the Cascade Natural Gas territory is relatively rural, one of the things that, and especially at the Zone 3, the area in Eastern Washington, one of the things that Bob talks about and that's critical is having the heat specifically to melt ice and warm up in this case, firefighters, but in any case, the employees who are at a building, and how that radiant heat works very effectively and very efficiently because it's heating the things and the people and not just all of the space. So we might be ready now. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Bob Gear, the fire chief for the city of Pasco, and we're in our fire station 83. This is our busiest fire station, does a couple thousand plus calls a year. This is a new station, about a year and a half old. The architect obviously was very instrumental in choosing the various mechanical and lighting. The orientation of the station was important. both for access next to a busy intersection to get the fire trucks and ambulances out quickly and safely, and then choosing a lot of different ways to provide lighting from the exterior into the interior while still reducing the heat penetration from those windows. This area, we frequently run around 30, 32 degrees in the winter, and we don't build up a lot of snow. But what we do get is frequent ice storms, and the vehicles, our ambulances and the fire engines, tend to accumulate a bunch of ice on them when they're out parked on the freeway or wherever they're at. And the ability to come back into the station with radiant heat and warm that mass of that ambulance or that mass of that fire truck and dry that off, and then have those continue to heat the space around them as they warm up. They seem to be performing real well. We haven't had any problems. And it's important because you've got 4 or 5 people on duty at this station, and when they come back from a building fire, the first thing they have to do is shower to get the carcinogens off of them. The fire department has a great relationship with Cascade Natural Gas, but they've also been a great partner in this building construction, helping us with rebate programs and information about different alternative mechanical and electrical options that we can have to be more energy efficient in these buildings.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Appreciate that. So obviously this project, if you looked at the therms and the dollars saved, is not one of our, huge projects in terms of dollars or therms saved, but it is a really good example of the kind of everyday upgrades that businesses can make. And fire stations are, kind of community pillars in a lot of ways. So we have an excellent videographer who works on a lot of our projects. And this is, I think, the 3rd year in a row or 3rd in the last 4 years that we've done a video case study. And it was really well done by a videographer. And we plan to continue to do that in 2023. So a couple other highlights for the quarter and for the year. We did a streaming campaign, an audio streaming campaign. We had, I believe, 98% listen through rates on our audio streaming ads, which is by far higher than the industry standard. And I don't mean by far. I think the average industry standard is about 93 or 94%. So it's still pretty good. But ours were particularly solid, and we plan to continue that into 2023. And then Tri-Cities Area Journal of Business, we call it Tri-Cities Business Journal, but officially the Tri-Cities Journal of Business. We do regular ads with them, and they were having an energy edition, and we kind of wanted to focus on taking the opportunity to remind folks that saving money and energy through our energy efficiency program is critical at a time where there's a lot of discussion of all sorts of different opportunities and areas where the program as a whole could be taking a back seat. We want to be a little more proactive and get out our messaging. So that's the ad you're seeing in the upper right-hand corner. Any questions on the outreach side? All right. The one last thing I would add, just in regards to 2022 that will roll into 2023, is that we are proposing an additional new measure for 2023, and that was a pilot in 2022, and that was researching demand control ventilation for kitchens, so makeup air units for kitchens. And we have all the information and have presented it, and Monica probably will talk about that at a later time, but I just wanted to let you all know that that was a deliverable from 2022 that we did complete, and we do see some really good opportunity for 2023 and beyond with that measure. So I think that is all I have. Are there any other questions I can answer? Anything that pops to mind? Obviously, I'll be on the call the entire time, so I know we're moving to residential, but I'll be here should any other questions arise.
Thank you, Brady. I also wanted to mention that Ted asked for the link to that video, and so Jocelyn was kind enough to paste it here. It's the company's YouTube, and we actually have a couple of other case studies on there as well. On the commercial side, we have the Ostrom mushroom farm on there, which is a really fun one. It's gives you a great view of I don't know if we played it here on the advisory group, but gives you a great view of the actual mushroom, the whole warehouse and everything. So that one's kind of fun to see the different areas where energy efficiency actually makes sense. You don't think about it to start with. So Brady's been really great about working with our customers in that sector to be able to highlight when they have these really, really important but visually appealing, so you get people's attention, and then kind of put them in a mindset of, I could do that too. What could we do to help on our side as well? So thank you for that, Brady. Any questions or comments about the quarterly update on that commercial industrial program? All right. Well, thank you, Brady. I am going to move on to the residential program highlights. I've got a couple of members of our team that are going to help me weigh in a little bit as we go through this. There's quite a few elements on the residential front that we're going to talk about. We've got the number of paid rebate applications in the, that's interesting. I think Brady kind of paused on the screen here for me. Is everybody hearing me okay?
Yes, I can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I never know if it's someone else on the other side or if it's me who's the one that gets paused. But from the residential program, it looks like we, as of week 38, so not quite the last few weeks of the year. Again, we have to pull the numbers before we get the final reconciled data, just as I mentioned for the commercial side. So this will change slightly when we actually do our annual report. So almost year to date, with a few caveats, we reached about 78.5% of our goal for the residential program for the year, with a accumulated almost 337,000 therms. We currently have a robust queue. We've got about 404 residential applications in the working queue that roll into the 2023 program year. So that's about another 41,500 therms to start off 2023. The residential program had a lot of applications submitted in Q4. We had about 1,200 compared to 913. So let's say about a 35% increase over our 3-year average. There's a lot of submissions in Q4. A lot of the increase can actually be attributed to our public user experience. So that's the updated online application process for our residential program. Previously, we called it the public user interface. Is that right? PUI. Yep. And then the newer version is the PUX. It just makes it a lot easier for those customers. We did a lot of work with our vendor to improve that experience for the customers as they come in. It's really important to do that constant quality, that quality management that Carrie has put in place for our team, process improvement constantly. So that's one of those things that we see is really weighing in this year. In as far as those improvements go. Carrie, did
Monica,
you want to weigh in? Yep.
Yeah, it's a simpler experience, and kudos to Jocelyn for really paring it down. So we've seen a much higher usage, which makes us more efficient. We also are seeing quite a few smart thermostats. So that's a smaller. We're hoping it's a gateway. that it's a gateway measure to get people their attention and get them thinking more about energy efficiency. But it does take. I don't know what that. Somebody is not muted. It also their applications, and so they take the same amount of time for maybe a little bit less therms. So we're happy to have them, but they definitely are as much. We don't get as much bang for the buck. Yeah. Thank you, Monica.
Thank you, Carrie. I think that was, what did we say, about 157% growth in the actual application submissions through that PUX online portal. So improving that customer experience, like Carrie said, is really important. The simpler, the more likely they are to actually submit it as opposed to walking away, especially for those items that are you're not getting as much money back. You got to make it
Right.
worth their while and as simple as possible.
And more efficient.
And more efficient.
Yeah, less time on the back end for us to process.
Exactly. Yeah. That administrative burden is really important to reduce so that we can continue to process these rebates when they come in and turn them around for those customers as quickly as possible. What we're looking at now is the point of sale program success that we've had in the last year. We've seen a huge increase in our POS program participation. We've talked about the POS repeatedly in these advisory group meetings, but I'm going to give you a little reminder of what they are. And I want to give some big kudos out to Stephanie Reed. She's taken on our point of sale program with the trade allies and really grown it, made sure that the trade allies are really aware and familiar with what this is. I don't know if you recall, but Chris Fork kind of started it up for us. There is a requirement for any of our contractors, trade allies, excuse me, that are participating in the point of sale that they have, that they understand that there is a little bit of liability on their side to make sure that when they're offering a point of sale discount, that they're familiar with the programs enough that they're not offering something that the programs would not be able to provide to the customer. So they know the requirements for a program. They know what the minimum efficiency requirements are. They know the timelines in which they need to submit these applications. They're in contact with us when they have questions, so we get some real-time responses. We try to remove some of the barriers for them so that these customers can get those discounts at the time that they're actually purchasing. That makes it easier for them to participate in the program. It makes it easier for the trade allies to be able to offer these programs for on our behalf and to our customers. And then hopefully, because they're familiar with the programs, when they submit their applications, it removes some of the errors and the missing information on the back end. So we get a streamlined application. And we can process them. We actually expedite processing on these because our contractors are the ones that are actually shouldering the cost of that install until they receive the rebate back from us, which then goes to the contractor. That's what we mean by point of sale. So we've had significant growth from 2021 to 2022. If you see that we originally started in 2019, we've seen we went from like 294 applications in 2021 to 735 in 2022. So that's a huge jump. As we've noted here on the slide, again, thank you, Stephanie, for creating the slide for us as well. But we've got in the last 6 to 8 months, we've been focusing on that section of our trade allies to really grow this program, because this is a way that we can try to reach more of those contractors, or not just the contractors, excuse me, but those customers who will look at these rebates and say, it's not worthwhile. I can't pay this up front. I can't pay the install cost. So it's not even worth my time to move forward. These contractors are removing that barrier. And so as part of that, we've had a lot of hands-on training with the trade allies. And when I say hands-on, we're doing personalized, Stephanie and Sheila together are doing personalized trainings for these contractors to inform them on what the requirements are, and then how to actually go through the process and how to get the expedited return through our processing of those rebates. And it helps us with the quality and that they have that knowledge base to make sure that they're offering something that we really can provide. We've got that 20-day turnaround on average for reimbursement to the trade allies. Typically, our customers, we quote 8 to 12 weeks for processing their rebates. And these TAs, we're trying to get the funds back to them, in 3 weeks, essentially. Individualized monthly reporting to ensure payment accountability for those contractors. So we're making sure that we're going back with them later and saying, okay, did everything that you sent, did you get the funding back? What does it look like? And we're doing a cross comparison to make sure that they're getting everything that they need from us. We mentioned the public user experience improvement that we had for our software. In addition to that, in the same software vendor, we've got a Trade Ally Connect portal, which was launched in November of 2022. And that portal is actually allowing our contractors, specifically we're focusing on those point of sale contractors, to submit their applications electronically to us, which will also remove some of that, some of that lag time. And if they're sending us a secured, transfer, or what that looks like, or via mail, a lot of things are still mail, fax. This will remove that as a potential bottleneck. and allow them to actually in real time with those customers, fill out those applications, get the authorization for payment, and submit it to us along with the invoices. And hopefully those invoices meet our requirements. So it's just, ticking all of the boxes so that we can get these processed through as quickly as possible. And then we're hoping that all of our contractors will have access by the end of this month to that Trade Ally Connect portal to be able to help customers with their processing. That doesn't mean they're all point of sale. They still have to sign a separate, agreement with us so that they understand what point of sale is. But I believe our point of sale contractor base has increased since Stephanie took over the program as well. So that's been a really great success story when you look at participation and overall submissions through that portal. And as it says here, we're expanding growth, improved integrations between our demand side management software that we use to process those rebates, and then that Trade Ally Connect portal as well. So there's reports and everything that we can now pull through that portal that help us identify if there's any projects that we're stuck in missing information or just awaiting some sort of processing aspect so that we can get them through. Carrie, did you have something that you wanted to add? I'm sorry.
Thank you. I just wanted to remind this audience as well, and due to the work of Sheila and Stephanie, the door-to-door model has been quite successful in one of the zones in Washington for weatherization, for insulation, and that's addressing the shell is a persistent savings, and it's something we really care a lot about here at the CNGC Energy Efficiency. So we've been pleased with that program. We've seen some good results, and that particular contractor, Trade Ally, who is going to be using the online portal, is looking to expand. And so we're seeing increased interest from our customer base in addressing in an efficient and affordable way the energy efficiency of the shells for residential.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. That's a really good reminder. Some of the point of sale submissions that we're getting this year, not some, a lot of them are from this door-to-door sales model. We learned our lessons. I'll say that since I've been with the program, we've had 3 different instances where we've had Trade Allies start in our territory, especially on the east side, with a door-to-door business model for weatherization. And the first 2 times, it was pretty bumpy. And it's a matter of making sure that the contractor is messaging accurately to the customers. It's not free insulation. It's part of it's insulation installed by that contractor, and being able to leverage existing rebate programs through the utilities. It's a matter of really being clear with the customers on what the actual offer is and who's offering it, and then who's actually doing the work. So we've worked with this vendor, this particular Trade Ally, to make sure that their messaging is clear. And we talked about this in the last CAG meeting. And they've really, and we've done a lot of quality control on these projects specifically, just to make sure, again, because we've learned from previous issues, and their quality is top notch. We haven't had any issues. We still get a lot of questions from customers on occasion. Is this legitimate? Who are these people coming door to door? We still, as a utility, we don't promote one contractor above another. We still recommend 3 quotes, 3 bids for every project. But we are able to speak to when a customer asks, yes, we're familiar with this contractor. They have passed quality control inspections. We do offer the rebates. Here's information for you. And that's actually been a really great communication, both with the Trade Ally and with our customers. Gives us an opportunity to help just promote the programs as a whole. So this is a really good success story that has taken a lot of work from our internal team to make sure that we're meeting all these industry requirements, customer service, and all the other aspects. But it's definitely paying dividends when we have support from this point of sale aspect to help them leverage our programs and get those homes weatherized. That's a pretty exciting aspect. Any questions on the POS before I move on? Okay. So when I talk about the point of sale, it's probably important to look at the application intake trend as well. I don't want to put you on the spot, John, but I can go through the notes here, or would you like to speak to the application intake trends that we're seeing?
Yeah, I'd be more than happy to. All right. The application intake trend was very strong in 2022. It actually marks the highest number of applications that we have received in any 1 year to date. And that came out to be, I think it was about 3,980 applications, 3,940. So just 60 short of 4,000. And it's roughly 150 more applications than we've received in any previous program year. So that's really exciting to see. As it's marked in the, or noted in the meeting agenda, it marks a 15% increase over the 3-year average intake, which is 3,400 applications. And versus 2021, it was actually I believe a 12% increase year over year. Looking at Q4 specifically, there was a very strong trend. We saw a 35% increase versus the 3-year average for Q4. It was about 39% year over year. So a really, really strong way to end the year, bringing in applications. Something that I'd like to point out is typically in Q4, we would see all the builder applications coming in as a result of the most recent code update from the 2018 code update that went into effect in 2021. We've been seeing far few builders participating. And so there is actually a pretty large drop in applications we received from our builder cohort. That being said, the increase was so strong in Q4 that even though we didn't see these applications from builders, we still saw almost 40% growth year over year for the Q4 of the year. So that was just really exciting. If you do look at the graph here, or this bar chart, you can see that for the last half of the year, the overall growth rate was really strong. And in the first half, it was about on pace with what we'd done the previous year. So it's really just a testament to, how many more applications we're bringing in through the PUX, through the point of sale program, which isn't just, shifting applications from being submitted on paper. It is increasing the overall number of applications we're receiving. So we're really excited to see this kind of growth. And then hopefully we'll see the same growth in the next year. The growth rate over the last 3 years has been 12 to 13% year over year. And so if we do see that kind of growth again, we would have somewhere around 4,500 applications received in 2023, which gives us a lot better path to meeting goal in 2023. So I'll go ahead and stop there. And if anyone has any questions about the intake trends, just let me know. All right.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, sure thing.
Appreciate
Thank you.
So the next item is savings by district. And do you want to speak to this as well, John, or I could speak to it totally?
Yeah. Yeah, I'm more than happy to. So this is a visualization that is taken from a report we send to the energy service representatives on a quarterly basis. It's just a really good way to also just show program accomplishments for the residential program in the last quarter of the year. To Monica and Carrie's point in regards to the success of the door-to-door approach that is being taken by one of our great allies. You can see in Kennewick, it is far and away the highest therm saving district for the Q4. And that is very much a result of the work of that TA. And we can see Bellingham is in second, typically a very strong district year over year. Something to note, year over year, the savings were lower in every district except one Walla Walla did see a 1% increase. That being said, as part of our most recent tariff update, quite a few of our measures had decreases in the deemed therms per unit installed. So it's a bit difficult to, be able to achieve a higher number of therm savings when, some of those therm values are decreasing somewhat. That being said, still really strong quarter for Kennewick and Bellingham. And then if you can move to the next slide, please. That'll just give us a view of the rebate payments. And here you can see, again, it follows pretty much the same trend as the therm savings. So we see Kennewick out in front with Bellingham as the second highest rebate payments for the quarter. If you note the difference in rebate payments between Bellingham and Kennewick, it is a $300,000 difference. And part of that is the fact that the rebates that are being paid in Kennewick are mostly weatherization measures, which tend to be our largest rebates. They also save a lot of energy and have some of the longest measure lives. So while that, we see this $300,000 difference in the rebates paid, there is also a very, we saw about twice as many therms being saved in Kennewick versus Bellingham. And on top of that, over the long run, those weatherization projects are going to be saving therms for many years to come. And yeah, I think that pretty much sums up the Q4 accomplishments for the residential program. So again, I'll open it for any questions.
I've got a quick question. Are you able to share the name of the trade ally in Kennewick? Sounds like we might have some lessons we could learn from them.
Yeah, Monica. So the trade ally is Energy Pro Insulation.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And we did share as part of our follow-up to the meeting from the last quarter. Desiree sent out a copy of a flyer. It's like a quarter page little flyer that we provided. We worked hand in hand with Energy Pro that just kind of, like I said, the customers sometimes are like, is this legitimate? What is this like? What does this mean? Are they really working with the gas company? So it clarifies, that they're a trade ally. The gas company is the one that has the rebates. If you choose to work with this contractor, here's some of the things for you to think about. But it does, help clarify some of those questions from the customers. If that'd be helpful, Ross, we'd be happy to send that out again. Or I'm not sure if you were on that last list, so if you didn't get it, I'm more than happy to send it to you directly.
Sure, that sounds good. Thank you. I'll take a look, but that would be helpful. Thanks.
Okay, thank you.
One other thing I did want to mention in regards to Energy Pro is they have been a huge proponent of the prescriptive air sealing rebate that we offer. So previously we did have a whole house, we still do. We have a whole home air sealing rebate, and that requires test in, test out, blower door testing to achieve a specific number of CFM reduction, so cubic feet per minute reduction in exfiltration, infiltration. We have a prescriptive offering, which is based on the whole house air sealing. That being said, it is a lower rebate amount and a lower savings amount, just because we don't have that verification from exactly how many CFM were reduced. But it is following best practices per the BPA weatherization manual, and requires the air sealing of both the floor and attic planes, in addition to a insulation measure being installed. So that's just another piece of the, why we're seeing some really strong therm savings in Kennewick. For everyone that might not be familiar, air sealing is one of the best things you can do for a home. It is probably the easiest way for heat to escape your home. Not probably, it is. And so doing that can really reduce just poor air quality coming into the house, moisture moving through the walls into areas you don't want it, and heat just being wasted to the air outside. So we're really excited to see the uptake of that measure. All right.
I have
other
a
questions?
got a quick question here. This is Jade from the UTC.
Go ahead.
Just curious because I live in Bremerton. Does Cascade have service all throughout Kitsap County, or is it just kind of in and around the Bremerton city area?
It's pretty much the whole peninsula. This is Sheila.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. It's the Kitsap Peninsula.
Gotcha.
If
Okay,
that
just
makes
curious.
sense. Okay, good.
Thank you.
Yeah, I should make the clarification. The map might not exactly reflect our service territory. It's more the limitations of how I put this together in Excel. You'll see, for example, Wenatchee. We don't have that much of a service territory out there. It's really about just Wenatchee and around there. But just want to clear that up as well.
Thank you, John.
Absolutely.
So I will mention as well, this is kind of going away from that intake number, but we've increased our outreach efforts and our tracking and our looking at our campaign and our media plan for the next 6 months for our residential program. When we brought Lexi Bright on, Lexi's role is that community outreach coordinator on the residential front. And so she's been working hand in hand with a lot of our external partners, as well as internally with Taylor, to make sure that we're getting these. We've got print media, of course, and then we've got some streaming media that we're looking at as well. And then Lexi's out there, getting out there in the community to talk to our customers. So it's a kind of a full approach to making sure that we're addressing our it's not just about advertising, right? It's about talking to the customers. Lexi partnered with our commercial industrial program on the case study, and we're looking at actually creating some of those case studies internally as well moving forward. And Lexi is heading that effort, so we're excited to see where that goes. Being able to create some of that media internally helps with cost saving, as well as some real time messaging from our customers about how the program is going. So excited to see where that goes. And then I wanted to show you just a couple of examples of some of those outreach pieces that we've done in the last quarter. Not all inclusive, of course. We do a bill insert every single month to our customers, and sometimes it's commercial, sometimes it's residential, sometimes it's low income. This time, what we're showing here is not the bill insert so much as some of the other media that we've played throughout our territory. So you've got the membership directories. We've got the best version media is a magazine ad that we place in select areas within our territory. And then you've got the Concrete Herald newspaper. That's a new placement that Lexi looked at. We might not serve all of the concrete area, but we serve enough that it's very worthwhile to make sure that customers know about the rebate programs that are available. And then we've got the I don't think I put it. Oh yeah, Mount Baker Theater. That's the other one. Is we selected a couple of the events that were happening at the Mount Baker Theater where we could leverage what is the event and how does that play with our message, and how can we let people know in the Whatcom County area specifically, the Mount Baker Theater, about those programs. So that's what you're seeing here. All of the creative is courtesy of Taylor's really talented. It's always fun to be able to show these off. So thank you. Any questions about the residential program quarterly update? We also included all of the the tables, courtesy of Jocelyn. She pulls that together for us. I know I do want to break here in a little bit. I'd like to get through this biennial discussion real quick. And then we have our low income program, but I think before we start talking about the low income program, I'd like us to get a break. So let me touch base here on the biennial progress to goal first, and then we'll take that 10-minute break if everyone's okay with that. And I don't think this part of the conversation is going to take too terribly long. But what you're seeing here is not just our annual progress. Again, I'm going to add that caveat I always do. We haven't done our annual report yet, so this is a point in time. We still need to do our reconciliation. Okay, so having said that, this is what we're seeing for residential program progress to not just the annual goal, but the biennial goal. On the residential program, we are 36% of the BCP goal and 38% of the incentive budget. On the commercial front, we're 30% of that goal, and we've used up 16% of the incentive budget. We'd said last year, and we'll reiterate now, the second year of the biennium is very aggressive. It's larger than what the goals were for the first half in both the residential and the commercial front. There's a lot of work for us to do to be able to meet the biennial goals. And a lot of that work is also talking to our advisory group. We want to be transparent in letting you know where we're at. We did not make the goals this year for the mid biennium. And so what does that mean for as far as how we're going to shift in the new year? We're going to talk after we get back from our break about the annual plan update that we're doing, and then our annual report and plans for 2023. I think Brady's able to speak to that a little bit on the commercial side as we talk about that as well. But in the meantime, do we have any questions about this biennial progress to goal?
Monica, I have a quick question. This is Amy. So I know the new energy code for commercial and residential has impacted your ability to collect savings from new construction. Is that reflected? I guess is sorry, I'm still not awake. Yeah, but is the target that was developed with this assumption that you would be able to have a decent amount of savings from new construction?
That's a really good question, Amy. So on the residential front, we did. I believe that I'd have to check me for my honesty here, John, but I'm fairly certain that the residential, we knew that the new construction side was going to be affected. So I think that the potential was significantly reduced on the residential front. The CPA did not take into account those changes that are proposed to go into effect for the commercial program. It also did not take into account, it only accounted for Bellingham new construction commercial reductions in our recent IRP, but that was not included in the CPA. So in many situations, not many situations, it's not the right way to phrase it, but we are running into a situation where some of the code change, some of the electrification push, it is impacting our ability to meet our goals. And that's part of the conversation that we're going to have as far as that annual plan. I'm going to stop there and let John speak to it though for a moment here.
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify the point. You said that the impact to residential new construction was considered in our last CPA?
I believe it was. I remember them looking at, I do think some of it actually was, John, because I think they decremented the amount of potential. They didn't zero it out. But I do believe that they decremented the amount of potential for the residential new construction based on that code change. Did they not? Am I incorrect in saying that?
I thought that they asserted that since the code change hadn't gone into effect, that they were not going to include it in the analysis. So I believe there is still a portion of that goal that we're being held to that is derived from new construction savings that are much more difficult to achieve under the new code.
More aggressive than we could do.
I think so, but we might want to just we could double check with AEG on it.
Yeah, let's take that as a to-do, just to follow up for Amy on that. I know we talked about it and we went back and forth quite a few times. I know that they did incorporate some decrement, but it probably wasn't to the amount of what we're seeing, to John's point. So let's take that as a to-do to follow up with you, Amy, if we can. And then I think you have another question.
Oh yeah, I think I was just going to clarify. I think the currently in effect residential energy code, the 2018 code, is probably reflected in your CPA. I would guess. So maybe that's a confirmation, but that is also resulting in lower gas efficiency opportunities. So even holding aside the code that will go into effect next year.
Yeah.
So okay. That's confirmation.
Thank you for that clarification. Yes, that's kind of what I was internalizing is the 2018 versus what is going to go into effect. So what is going to go into effect, especially like on the commercial side, but to your point on residential, no, those were not incorporated. That's AEG has said that they're not able to do that essentially until these things go into effect. So holding us to a goal that for customers that aren't even going to be gas is problematic. We'll say it that way.
Yeah, and I think you're not the only company facing that. I likened it to like you're playing a soccer game or a football game and the goalpost stayed the same, but the field got longer and you're starting out at a different location. So, I think there's definitely some conversations to be had about like, what are the implications of quote, not meeting your goal if all the opportunities to get there are not there.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up, Amy. I can bring it up, but it means a little something different if I bring it up as the one who's missing the goalpost. So I think that's part of the conversation that we really do need to have as an advisory group is what are the potential impacts? If it goes into effect in July, what does that mean? And how do we look at realistically what we can achieve and continue to strive as hard as we can for those goals, because that's really important that we do meet every cost-effective measure that we can offer. Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up. Any other questions to that point? I think we're going to address it a little bit more as we talk about our annual plan here shortly. I want to make sure that we speak to the biennial goal real quick. If there are any further questions. Go ahead.
Hey, Monica, this is Jade. I just had one clarification question. I just want to make sure I'm understanding. So AEG was aware that these code changes were coming, but they said they couldn't incorporate that into the potential because they weren't in effect yet. Am I understanding that correctly?
In my mind, I am conflating 2018 and then the more recent ones. So I apologize for that. That was a mistake on my part. Having said that, yes, AEG has said in the past that if a code is not essentially in effect, then they can't, then they won't include it in the potential assessment itself. So again, I'm paraphrasing. John and Carrie, please correct me if I'm not paraphrasing accurately, but that's essentially that's the takeaway I've got.
They said it was speculative and that the model wasn't set up to incorporate speculative savings or lack of savings.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, because the code wasn't written yet, so we didn't know what it was going to consist of. They hadn't really, it wasn't transparent at all. We didn't know what measures or actions would be in the code until it was adopted.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you for that.
And we're going to speak about AEG here shortly too, because we have our conservation potential assessment that we need to do start in quarter one. So I think there's more conversations to be had there. Okay, I am going to take this opportunity then, before we jump into low income, to give us all a 10-minute break. There's still quite a bit on our agenda, but I think that we're in a good place to be able to meet everything that we want to talk about today. We'll still talk about low income. We're going to talk about that annual plan update and then our annual report timeline. And then we also need to talk about our residential pilot status and our conservation potential assessment kickoff. So still lots to come, but let's please take a 10-minute break. That'll put us back here at 10:40. Okay, it's 10:40. I just want to make sure, could someone let me know if you're seeing the low income weatherization title slide here?
Yes.
Thank you.
And
All
I just
right.
want to remind everybody that we are recording the meeting.
Thank you, Des. All right, so I think we're actually going to jump into our low income weatherization program highlights. This conversation is going to be headed by Sheila McElhenney, and then Noemi Ortiz is also going to be here for support. And then in the future, Noemi's going to probably have some more feedback on our programs and has actually taken over as of the beginning of the year. So I will leave it to Sheila and Noemi.
Thank you, Monica. Here we have the annual January to December accomplishments for the program 2022. A couple things. We actually did pretty well with 36 homes. There's been some holdover from COVID in terms of low-income weatherization activity. Therms per household look really good, including all the project coordination and the indirect fee. We spent just over $500,000. Is there another slide with some narrative there?
No, I just included it in the
okay. I'll just speak to
in
it.
the agenda.
Absolutely. The supply chain issues, whatever you want to call it, and labor shortages continue to affect the agency's ability to accomplish work. Contractors are booked out. Contractors that want to do low-income weatherization are difficult to find. The waiting lists for whole home weatherization are growing throughout the service area, and the agencies are understaffed. And production is down in general, but we are well poised to move forward in 2023, and we will enroll as many projects as we can. Right now we have, there's an outstanding project from 2022 that needs to be processed. It's 44 furnaces at Community Action of Benton Franklin. They worked with the Sunnyside Housing Authority, and Noemi can talk. Oh, it isn't CAC of Benton Franklin. It's Northwest Community Action. I apologize. And we also have 3 projects recently submitted from the Housing Authority of Skagit County. And that's about all I have to say, unless you have any questions for me.
And just to add a little bit to Sheila's, we are wrapping up review of those applications for 2022, and then some new ones, some new rebates as we get started. Also wrapping up the final MOUs, the reviews, so those will be sent out. Once they're done, Sheila will be contacting the agencies and sending those out as well, and kind of see what the projection is for each agency as far as their projected jobs for 2023.
Excellent. Thank you for bringing that up. Yeah, the MOUs were sent out in December, so we're still working on getting those signed. Monica?
I was just going to add that we used, when we did our goal setting for the low income program, we pulled the goals through the last CPA, and then we cross-reference them against what the agencies themselves said that they could use, or they could do, excuse me, through the MOUs. They attested, I think it was last year, we asked them to look for 2022, and then we also asked them forward facing to look at 2023 because we were setting up our biennial conservation plan. And so as part of the MOU process, they're not held to that number necessarily. It's more of a, we think that we can do this, and this is what we're looking at. And so we cross-reference those 2 data sets when we were actually setting up our goals for the year, and they were based more on what the agency said they were going to do versus what the actual CPA said. There was a delta in between the 2. It wasn't a huge difference, but I did want to mention that we do actually keep that communication with those agencies in mind, because again, they're the ones that are actually implementing the programs to our customers and then utilizing those funds. So it's something that we'll be looking at again actually this year as we do our new biennial conservation plan for 2024 and 2025. And that work starts essentially early summer of this year.
Yeah, Monica, this is Sheila. I'm optimistic about this year. I think we're going to have a good year, and I'll look forward to accomplishing more than we did in 22. Any other questions, comments? Anyone?
Thank you, Sheila and Noemi. Appreciate it. And then can I just touch base really quick, Ross? Are you still the right person to be on the advisory group on the energy project's behalf, or is there additional information or contact information we should be including?
Yeah, for now it's just going to be me. Other than I do want to make sure that Yoki Zakai is included in communications, and we have I have 2 email addresses that would be helpful to add if they're not already on the list. I'll plug those in the chat.
Okay, thank you.
And I am sort of acting in an interim capacity, so I'm not certain that I'll be the representative at next quarter's meeting, but and you know, until then, we'll see.
Okay, that's fair. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So I'm going to move on to the next agenda item here. This is our annual plan discussion update. I'm going to ask Jade for some support on this as we have this conversation. As part of our, if you take a peek at the agenda, I made a note, and actually, I guess it's on the PowerPoint slide here as well. As part of our biennial conservation plan, we did sign off on some condition documents that clarified the cadence of our both reporting and planning processes moving forward. As part of that, it was a biennial conservation plan that we were implementing as of, it was for 2022, but I think we filed it, November, end of November, early November, I think it was early November of 2021. And that was to account for the full 2-year timeframe. Prior to that, we had been doing an annual plan I think for about 3 or 4 years prior to that, we've been doing an annual plan. And that was as per Order 4 of the general rate case from I think that was the UG 152286, the 2015 rate case. That's what actually had started Cascade on doing an annual plan, whereas all of our planning prior to that was actually done through the integrated resource plan process. So we have these requirements. You'll see them listed up on the slide here. We had to include the conservation target for the ensuing year by program and customer class, program and measures that the company will employ to achieve its target, projected budget by program and customer class, an estimate of the portfolio's cost effectiveness, and a list of measures offered under the programs and the unit energy savings values and customer incentives for each. We recently had a conversation with Jade and actually Andrew Rector from the commission staff, and they let us know that while we are under the new BCP requirements, that the existing requirement for an annual plan from the UG 152286 was actually still in effect. We had talked about it last year. I think, correct me if I misphrased the situation, Jade, but there was another workshop another docket that was in process last year to streamline this process that would actually remove the annual plan requirement for the electrics, which would have also accounted for our gas annual plan. That did not complete last year. And so the requirement that we do an annual plan as well was apparently still in the system. Cascade did not provide an annual plan. We were running under the biennial plan cadence. And so Jade reached out and said we did need to do an update to our biennial conservation plan for the new year. So I'm working on it now. There's a very short timeline. It actually needs, I don't know if everyone in the advisory group remembers, but anytime that we file something with the commission, the advisory group actually needs 30 days notice before it gets filed. So the goal is to actually provide it to our advisory group by close of business this Friday, or at least Friday, the 13th. That's kind of a fun date, isn't it? And then give you a chance to review it, and then we'll be filing that update with the commission. Well, I guess that'd be by mid-February. So 30 days out. Actual plan itself is going to mostly be a reiteration of the 2023 numbers from the BCP itself. From Cascade's perspective, I'm a little concerned with trying to rerun numbers based on the delta between what we accomplished this year and what needs to be accomplished by the end of the year to meet the goals for a couple of reasons. One of them is exactly what Amy brought up is, what are the effects to those goals when those goalposts are moving? And, we haven't had a chance to run the analysis on that because we're not planning right now on doing another plan. So I'm not going to include that as part of this actual plan update. What I will do is I'll add some narrative explaining what we think is going to affect those goals. We're going to include what the actual goals that were set as part of the BCP within this update, and then also the budgets. And we'll speak to some of the delta, but we're not going to actually put specific numbers behind that delta because we haven't finalized the end of the year yet. So I know I'm hemming and hawing a little bit, but I wanted to give the advisory group update on what we're doing, why we're doing it, why there was a gap, and then give Jade an opportunity to weigh in.
Yeah, thank you, Monica. And I think you characterized the situation pretty well. Just kind of an unfortunate spot. And this is kind of an example of, while staff can provide sometimes very well-meaning guidance to the companies, ultimately it's the commissioners who make the official decisions through order or rules. So this was just an unfortunate case of staff's intentions not working out, and then of course getting that communicated to Cascade as quickly as possible so that we could get Cascade within compliance. So staff is, aware of sort of the awkward, situation and the expectation that Cascade wasn't going to submit a plan, and we're factoring that into, our review of this shortened plan. So I'm happy to answer any of the questions that folks have.
One thing I do want to bring up, and I think we have, ties available. So I would like to kind of open the floor a little bit to discuss in a little more depth what specific code changes we think might affect our residential program. I'm going to speak to it in the conservation plan, just kind of touch base on the different measures that we think might be affected by that code change. And then if you're able, Ty, if you could speak to what the difference is between when the plan is set to go into effect and what might potentially change that date or not, or if it's set in stone, so that the advisory group understands some of the ambiguity that we're working within right now.
Yeah, I think I can kind of cover what you're asking there. Where we're at right now in the code development process is Washington State has set its code. We know what that code effectively is going to be for both commercial and residential. Right now, the CR 103, which is the official legal language that will be adopted by the state, has been published for the commercial energy code and hopefully will be published this week for the residential energy code. So we're in a slight limbo with the residential energy code in the fact that we don't have the actual compiled language published yet, but we can definitely go back and look at what was proposed, what the final vote was using as the CR 102. There were several amendments that were made at the very last minute. Those are the ones that we're really looking to see incorporated and get that real true final language. However, the CR 102 is virtually correct. It just has 3 changes that we're expecting to see. But as I said, really, if you're looking for something to base anything on, the CR 103 for the residential code should be out this week. With that, the commercial code is 100%. We know where that's going to be. Now, where there may be changes is there are possibilities of a trade alliance filing suit against the state to have the SBCC walk back their code process and their code development. If that happens, we're most likely going to be continuing on with the 2018 codes for some period of time. That is a possibility. I don't know how much weight I would put behind that. Similarly, the state legislature has several bill proposals that will be forthcoming that are going to direct the State Building Code Council to walk back as well. Again, not sure how strong those will be. And if that does happen, there's still the question of what do we go to after that? Do we continue on with the 2018 codes? Where do we end up? So that said, there are those 2 possibilities combined. There is a decent possibility of either a delay or some type of walk back in the codes. However, that's really going to be through the legal system, either through the state legislature or through the courts. As it stands through the code development process, we have the final language of what's being proposed to go in effect on July 1.
Thank you, Ty. We recently had a conversation with Ty and our internal team and our business development group as well as to how this code change is actually going to affect our commercial industrial program and of course the residential as well. One thing that I did not internalize until we had that conversation is that it's not just an effect on new construction. And on the commercial side, the majority of the use for heating and space and water heating, it also affects existing customers to an extent. And if their equipment needs to be changed out, whether they can change it out with a high efficiency gas version, how efficient that needs to be above the baseline for code, and then the equivalent size. And I mean, there's a lot of stipulations. It seems very nuanced, at least from my perspective, on when a customer can replace even like for like on the commercial side for a natural gas customer. So it's kind of a different realm when we start looking at it. And our commercial industrial vendor for our programs, Brady is really trying to get a good grasp on what that looks like and making sure that we're messaging to our customers appropriately when this goes into effect, because we don't want to be telling them, hey, you should put this in, and then realizing that it's not even, they're not even allowed to do that. So a lot of nuance to it and a lot of potential change. And when I say potential change, I don't mean possible change. I mean change to our potential that we would actually be able to achieve through the savings. And that's what Amy was suggesting, I think. And that's where we have to have this conversation with our advisory group is, we've got our goals. They were set through the BCP. I'm going to be reiterating those goals in the annual plan because that's what we'd already set. And oh, by the way, what does that mean when we have these conversations of, potentially program changes that we were not planning on in July? And so that's a lot of the conversation that we need to have. And I'm not sure that it necessarily needs to be had today. But it does in the fairly near future. We need to plan for these and how are we going to change our program offerings? Brady, did you want to?
Yeah, the only thing I was going to chime in with, and this was a discussion with AEG, from what I remember back when we built the measures into the CPA, was the impact of kind of the chilling effect of the language around is gas even available as a use for space and water heating, and that has become, that it's very regular now that I have those conversations and our team has those conversations with customers. And that part I realize can't be factored into a CPA. I realize just anecdotal conversations and, the chilling effect that the language and the media coverage and discussions and all of that has on gas as a viable option for these replacements or new construction. That part we can't really take into account, and I understand that, but those conversations are they're almost becoming daily, that customers are reaching out and asking those questions. And obviously we're doing everything we can to inform them of the code change when it takes effect, what impact it will have. And Ty and the group and that conversation we had was very eye-opening. And Ty's put together some really good materials for us, and we appreciate that. But those conversations are, they're not theoretical anymore and kind of an exception. They're kind of the rule now these days with regards to whether gas equipment can be installed. So I just wanted to chime in with my 2 cents on that. Again, I know that that's not going to impact hard numbers and expectations and goals and all of that, but obviously we're not alone on the CNG program with hearing that, but just thought it was worth chiming in.
Thank you, Brady. I appreciate that. And I think it's important also to look at the residential program, because we have offerings right now that are going to be affected, obviously by code, but then also Energy Star changed for the Windows requirements. And so we actually need to take that into consideration as well as we look at this here and in our program implementation. Sheila, did you have a comment?
Yes, I just wanted to echo what Brady was saying about on the commercial sector. Conversationally is happening on the residential side. I mean, there's a lot of people ask me if gas is going to be banned. I mean, they're just really direct about it and really out there about it. So I think it's really integrated into the group mind of the general public that natural gas is tenuous or something like that. It's not considered the same old reliable, you can always have it commodity anymore. It's not like electricity. Everybody assumes they'll always have that. But almost every customer I touch asks me about the gas company status, if that's helpful.
Yeah.
It's anecdotal, but it is happening.
Thank you, Sheila. I think John wants to speak to the residential part as well, but before we jump into that, Ty, did you have something else to add in?
Yeah, I just would invite, if any of you encounter someone that is talking about a gas ban, please send them my way, because one of the things that I've been really working on throughout our team here is it's not a gas ban. We should not be saying gas ban. We should not be hearing about a gas ban, because there is no gas ban. Really, there is a large opportunity for gas to continue in both residential and commercial. What I will tell you is gas just isn't going to be the primary energy source going forward. Gas is still going to have a very large role in providing supplementary heat to both homes and businesses. And the reason I bring this up is if we start thinking about heat pumps, right? Heat pumps are very effective appliances that are very energy efficient, achieving efficiencies up over 300% in some cases. But what they lack is they have to be upsized tremendously when the weather gets cold. So anytime you have anything more than a temperate climate, anything that you're going to get down below freezing, those systems have to be sized quite excessively to be able to function. However, if you install gas as a supplementary backup energy source, you are able to avoid oversizing that unit, because you can switch over to gas when you get to those very low temperatures. Gas that has a much higher capacity to function in that cold environment. So what you're going to see is that gas is still going to be there. It's still going to be in homes. It's still going to be in businesses. It's just going to have a different role. It's not going to be the primary energy source that gets started up when it's, 55 degrees outside. It's going to be there when it matters the most, when it's really cold outside. But both homes and businesses will still continue to have gas services.
I think it's also important that we reiterate for this venue, Ty, that we're talking about high efficiency natural gas solutions too, because that's what the driver behind our programs is the high efficiency aspect. We're not speaking pro gas. That's not the point. Is we want customers, we want them to have a choice for that high efficiency option, and that's what we drive through our programs.
Well, and that high efficiency option is still there as a secondary system. There is no point in going with a low efficiency system as a backup. You're talking when it's the most critical use of that energy, you want to get as much heat out of it as possible. So high efficiency absolutely matters, even if it's a supplementary system.
Thank you. Yeah. Brady, you had your hand up?
So 2 points on that. One question and 1 point. The question is, my understanding is from a regulatory perspective, if it is not primary, it is not eligible for incentives if it's backup. So I appreciate some clarification on that. And then my point, or what I was going to mention, is that the other challenge with the new code is that the baseline for the new equipment or replacement equipment is set at a standard at which our incentives are basically become the baseline, or at least that's been my understanding from the conversation. So I think it was if it falls into an exception and it's a like for like replacement, it needs to be 10% above the previous code baseline, which, using boilers as an example, is 80% is the standard baseline that we have used for incentives. So that would up it to 90%, and thus our incentive is above 90%. So only for above 90%. So it kind of becomes the baseline again for those exceptions where they can actually install gas as primary heat source. So again, the question is if it's supplemental or if it's backup, can it be incentivized? My understanding was it could not. And then just the clarification on the baseline for those new pieces of equipment.
So when we're talking about supplemental, Brady, I think, and we've dealt with this a little bit on the residential side, it's more a matter of how we calculate the savings. And so if the savings are calculated off of the usage as that supplemental heat source, then that's where a lot of times it's not cost effective as the supplemental, and we've set up that requirement in the past that it be the primary heat source. I think that's where we have to have these conversations moving forward. Is there enough savings to still offer a rebate? And maybe there is from there might be ways for us to pair this program with some of the greenhouse gas emission reduction requirements that we have as well. So I'm saying that, and I shouldn't say that because we haven't fully explored it, but that's part of where the conversations are going.
Yeah. Monica, can I just jump in here at scale? Peach.
Sure.
When the climate stuff arose and became very conscious, one of the first responses was a movement called, some places it's called Electrify Now. And I think that the initial force of that was way overdone. And now that there's been time for discussion, like with ACEEE and with other people doing studies, it's really clear that there's going to be a gas future for the next 100 years. And it's going to be, as was just said, it's going to be moving towards covering in winter because the heat pumps just can't handle it for winter. For example, I'm working in Philadelphia right now where the city is basically heated with gas. It's primary fuel for residential. There's no way to change that. The amount of money that it would take to change out gas for electric is beyond the capability of the city or the region to pay for. So I think the general conclusion, as people have had a chance to think these things through and look at some of the studies, like by E3,
is that we have to be very, very careful moving forward and not push this too hard, too fast, this electrification stuff. Although the general direction makes some sense from a climate perspective, there are all kinds of other values. What we have to do is we have to maximize not just for one goal, which is climate, but for other goals like ability to pay, covering low-income customers, having the backup there from a disaster preparedness standpoint. As the climate gets worse, we're really going to need to have backup systems and not be invested in just one kind of system. So I think all this will evolve. I just want to throw that in that I see the discussion becoming much more thoughtful and including other objectives than climate as equal or more important than climate in certain contexts. So I just think that's where the discussion is going. I think there's going to be tremendous pushback as soon as people encounter the costs of, imagine what it would do to rates to try to take out a gas system and replace it with an electric system, or even just to build out the electric system. We had that experience with Whoops, was the science-based preference. I was here for that time. And it really, when it went bankrupt, because it was not possible to do all that work in a short period of time, just as it's not going to be possible. All of the studies take one electric company and say, what would it cost to double its system? Or take one gas company, what would it take to replace the gas system with an electric system or with ground source heat pumps or something? And that's not the situation. The situation is that all of these systems are going to want to do the same thing at the same time. And if you look at that incident in Tacoma where the substations were shot out by some not so bright robbers, notice that it's going to take 36 months to replace the equipment. They moved in temporary units to cover, but it's going to take 36 months to replace the equipment in those electric facilities. Well, that's because the equipment's manufactured overseas. Now imagine trying to build out a whole system to electrify with all the electric systems at once, all the supply bottlenecks, all the bidding against other countries. So I think that as we look at this and look at it and it unfolds, the pushback will be tremendous. And I don't think it's going to happen. Or if it happens, it'll take a couple hundred years. Anyway, I just see the conversation moving, and I see people who are thinking about this stuff in the side conversations outside of what people are saying officially. Whole thing is slowing down. Anyway, yeah. Just throw that in.
Thank you, Gil. I appreciate that very much.
Sure.
I do want to note that Ted's actually had his hand up for a little bit, so I think that we need to give Ted an opportunity to speak to the point as well. Thank you, Gil. I appreciate that maybe a holistic view at it, so it's not just from the one perspective.
Yeah, first off, thanks, Gil. That was pretty informative. Very much appreciate that. I just wanted to say, backing up, for the energy services side of things with the ESRs out there, talking to customers, signing customers up, we don't speak in anything but high efficiency. That's not even in the realm of our thinking. So I just want this group to be aware that when we're out trying to, gain customers, that we're trying to gain customers, for the benefit of Cascade, obviously, as we're a company that's trying to make a profit, but we're trying to do it in the best interest of the customer so we have a long-term relationship with that customer. It would do us no good just to push equipment that is inevitably going to cost them more money in the end. That's not good for them. That's not good for us. So I just wanted this group to be aware that we don't even speak in anything but high efficiency equipment. And we're working, hand in hand with the energy efficiency group to make sure that our group stays up to speed as to what is the next best technology, so on and so forth, that's going to be the best for everybody interested. So just wanted everybody to know that.
Thank you, Ted. Absolutely. It's been a partnership that we've built quite a bit over the last couple of years, and Carrie leads a quarterly meeting with business development and energy efficiency to make sure that we are, making sure that the resources are available and that the energy efficiency is leading those conversations as we talk to our customers. Thank you. Ty, did you have a comment?
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of fall back a little bit and raise a point. One of the things that I think this group could benefit from is a discussion around how we look at incentivizing our energy reduction and how we model that. There was a question related to, can we incentivize a secondary appliance? I'm not sure if that's a policy set by our regulators. If it is, I would entertain or suggest that we entertain a discussion revolving around how secondary appliances can help you achieve higher efficiency with your primary appliance. And the reason for that is, if you think about a heat pump, again, just mentioning heat pumps because that's what's going to be virtually mandatory here in Washington State, is a heat pump that is sized for your coldest day is going to be a very large appliance. Larger the appliance, the less efficient that it is. So if we can come in and provide a secondary energy source, not only can that energy source have efficiency above minimum, but it can actually increase the efficiency of the primary appliance by allowing it to be resized to a lower, more economical size that's going to benefit both the customer as well as the society, because it is a more efficient appliance. So there's a lot to be had for secondary appliances, particularly gas backup, because of that relationship between the primary and the secondary appliance. If we come in with a high efficiency 95% gas furnace backing up a heat pump, that heat pump may be able to go from a 4-ton unit to a 3-ton unit. That reduction right there provides tremendous energy savings. And if our regulators are not allowing us to model or take consideration of that, perhaps this is something that we need to discuss with them.
Thank you, Ty. No, I think your comment about us needing, sorry, turn on camera, I didn't realize it was so off. Needing to reevaluate how we look at these programs is valid. I mean, if the ground is shifting underneath us, then we need to be able to look at the benefits to the customers, which is, our ratepayers. That's our primary focus. And then that environmental benefit as well is how do we move with the times? How do we help reduce those greenhouse gas emissions, and then still make sure that our customers across all of the income levels, right, can take advantage of those offerings and make sure that they're all high efficiency. So I agree. I think that's a broader conversation. And I think Amy actually made a note as well in our chat about having this conversation on coordination with how Cascade's planning on complying with the CCA, and it's not just energy efficiency. It's a much broader conversation. We are having some internal conversations on that front, but I think advisory group plus, and I will follow up with our regulatory director, because I'd had a brief conversation with her about that as well, on how are we going to accommodate that, and what can we do creatively? Where can we go with it? Carrie, go ahead.
Thank you, Monica. I think I'd just like to call out one, for those of you that read Vaclav Smil, this is, what Gil was saying, and the incremental progress is really predictable. And it's been interesting to see over the past several years, this entire process is almost textbook evolutionary theory. And what we know about evolutionary theory is that, we didn't go from gills to lungs, in a exclusionary lockstep. It's an evolution. It's a gradual moving in a direction towards a solution that is sustainable. And sometimes that means there's redundancy. So I think we can't be afraid of that. And certainly the portfolio approach, I think is the most balanced way to move forward. So I think the CAG, this discussion is just a great example of doing that.
Yeah, thank you, Carrie. I 100% agree. And I think this is a good opportunity for us to kind of look at the move towards the annual report timeline. I would like to actually, and John's going to be addressing that part. And the reason I bring this up right now is mostly, it's 11:20. We have to talk about the annual report, but then we're also talking about our pilots, and then we need to talk about our conservation potential assessment. And some of what we're talking about is going to feed into our CPA as well. So just from a time perspective, let's put a pin in this. Let's kind of revisit it. Amy made a recommendation that we pull a meeting together, potentially with other members of Cascade, and then broader, obviously, than our advisory group, to talk about our compliance with CCA. So I think that's a to-do for me, Jess, is to circle back around with regulatory and see if we can try to get one of those conversations set up. And in the meantime, I'm going to ask John to speak to a little bit of the code change effect on the residential program. And then we'll transition from that as John addresses those items to his annual report timeline as well.
Hey, thank you, Monica. So this is just a follow-up to our earlier discussion on the 2018 Energy Code and how that impacted our 2020 CPA. So the 2020 CPA was actually performed in two phases. The first phase, which provided the goal for 2021, did not include impacts of the Energy Code. And the following year, we completed phase 2 of the CPA. So that occurred in 2021. In response to AEG saying that the code would be too speculative, we actually put together a survey to understand the impact that the code would have on our builders. And from that survey, we found that potentially up to 87% of furnaces in new homes would no longer be, 87% of the homes that the builders in our cohort were building would no longer use gas as the primary heat source. It was from this survey that they actually did introduce some considerations of the code impact into phase 2, and that was through reducing the furnace saturation in new homes by 50%, assuming no boilers would be installed in new construction, and water heating was also reduced by 80% as an assumption that most builders would be using electric heat pump water heaters. And it was this second phase of the CPA that then informed our 2022 and 2023 goals. So just to clarify, the impacts of the 2018 Energy Code did, in fact, make it into our goals for 2022 and this year, 2023. I will say the 50% reduction that was assumed to account for the impacts of the code is still on the conservative side. Again, going back to the survey that we did of our builder cohort, which was the findings of that were later corroborated through or by another study, which was performed by NIA, and it looked at the post-code adoption. So looking at permits that were pulled for new homes in Washington, and the findings there were roughly equivalent to ours. It found, I believe, is an 80 to 85% reduction in the number of new homes that will be using gas as a primary heat source. Just clearing that up. Does anyone have any questions on that portion before I move on?
John, just really quick, which of our residential measures do you think are going to be affected by the new code change? I know I'm going to include those in our plan just as a mention, but I want to put those out there.
So furnaces in residential new homes are to be limited to backup heat under the 2021 Energy Code. And so we will need to, in our next CPA, just revisit what savings are available for gas as a backup heat source in new homes. And then let's see, windows, we currently offer them at a U factor of 0.3, a rebate for windows at a U factor of 0.3 and 0.22. There's an Energy Star update, which will make windows under the new code, they will be required to be at 0.28, and that will cover existing homes as well. So we'll need to revisit our window rebates. And the other portion that we'll need to revisit are the insulation measures. There's some changes to the R values that will need to be achieved. I believe ceiling insulation is going from R49 to R60. And again, that does impact existing homes. So while it doesn't require existing homes to meet that, they're not compelled to reach that insulation level, if they do end up, replacing their insulation, at that point, they will need to meet code. But they are not compelled to meet code as an existing building. It's kind of nuanced. I hope that doesn't, it can be a little confusing saying it that way, but again, there's nothing compelling existing homes to go out and get this new insulation level. But when they do get new insulation, it will have to be in accordance with what the code specifies. So we're going to need to revisit our insulation levels. I believe that covers it. Once the final edition of the code is written up, Ty, I think you said that would be coming out maybe this month. We'll take another look over it and just to confirm if there's anything else. Okay, awesome. Thumbs up from Ty. Perfect. So yeah, once we get a copy of that, we'll go over it once more just to make sure we're taking everything into consideration.
Thank you, John.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, should we go ahead and do your annual report timeline?
Yeah, let's move to that. Unless there was any other questions on the code impacts. All right, we'll move to the annual report timeline. So this is listed out in the agenda. And then on the next slide, there's also just a brief overview of it as well. Specifically, what we're looking at are some new deadlines this year in terms of when we need to provide copies of the annual report. Previously, it was June 1st, and a copy to the CAG was provided 30 days before that filing deadline. This year, the deadline for delivery to the commission is June 15th, and so the copy will be provided to the CAG at least 30 days prior to that deadline of 6/15. So we're looking at probably May 15th to get a copy out to the CAG. Then just breaking down the timeline that we're looking at. Over the next 2 quarters, we'll be completing the 2022 annual report. In Q1, we will be looking to complete reconciliation of our rebate accounts and our admin accounts. So that will cover all of our programs, the entire portfolio, so residential, commercial, and low income. We will also be making sure that we've cleaned and prepped data for use in the work papers that go along with the annual report. If you'll recall, there are a number of spreadsheets that accompany the annual report that provide the backup detail. Just pretty much a breakdown of achievement by measure, what they contributed, their cost effectiveness and whatnot. Just making sure we've cleaned and prepped the data that will be used in those, and then also the data that will be used to then make any of the charts or tables that go into the report. And then from there, we'll write and revise the first draft of the outreach report before the end of the quarter. And that will have us set up pretty well going into Q2. At that point, we'll be looking to finalize all the work papers, and those really need to be, finished before we can start writing anything, just so we're not going back and having to fix any numbers anywhere or, recheck any assumptions. So we'll get that all tidied away, and then we can get onto the report. The outreach report and the NIA report will be on not the exact same timeline as the other 4 work papers. And so we'll be looking to get the outreach report ready to be delivered to the CAG. And we'll be just working with NIA to understand when we'll receive that report on. But the best way to say it is, pretty much the achievements through NIA that we've helped fund. Moving on, we'll write and revise the main report before delivering it to the CAG, and then revise the report once more before filing it with the commission. That's the report timeline we're looking at. It's 6 months, gives us a lot of time. So, hopefully avoiding any crunch as much as possible, and just a nice smooth road there. Any questions on that timeline?
I'd like to clarify that the only reason it's smooth, John, is because of the processes you've put in place. John took this on last year and revised the process of the to-do list that I used to do to an entire Gantt chart with deliverables and the dependencies and really streamlined that process. So he's oversimplifying a little bit. There's a lot involved on the back end to make sure that we are able to tick and tie everything, and then provide really good analysis back to our advisory group on how did it go, what did we change from the previous year, what does it look like, what's our cost effectiveness, and yeah, it's a great report. Looking forward to jumping into it this year, but give yourself a little credit, John.
Thank you, Monica.
Thank you.
All right. Well, if there's no other questions there, we can move on to the pilot update. Perfect. Okay. Can I actually just have 30 seconds?
Absolutely. You're good. So for I'm going to actually jump then to the behavioral change update, just so that we can touch base on that. We are working on our HERS Home Energy Report pilot. We have our contract with EnergyX signed. We did do our technical review in December with the vendor and with our internal team. That's where Sonia has played a big part to make sure that we're meeting all the requirements, making sure that all the customer PII is handled correctly, that we're storing it and that the vendor is going to store it appropriately. And so we did a whole technical review and analysis and risk analysis and all of that on the back end to make sure that the information is going the way will be handled appropriately. And then we also work with our customer service team on what that process for sharing those reports to our customers looks like. Is it via email? Is it the vendor sending those emails? Is it us internally sending those emails? Because this is the first time we've done a pilot of this nature, there's a lot of logistics that we need to figure out from a corporation and how we're going to move forward with these in the future. So it's actually really good for us to explore these because it has us asking questions across the corporation on how do we address these and how are we going to leverage this in the future as well. So we're excited to see to have it kick off. So work is proceeding in the first half of this year. And our target is about 9,000 customer participants, and then in addition to the control group. That could vary slightly depending on if we get people requesting to be opted out of those home energy reports, but that just gives you kind of an update on where we're at with that pilot. I think John is back, so I will go back to the new home air sealing pilot. Go ahead, John.
Awesome. Thank you, Monica. Yeah, so on the air sealing pilot, we've made some good progress here. The timeline is slightly delayed at this point. We were looking to have a recruitment flyer put together that we could get out to the HBAs into our builder cohort, but we had a bit of delay getting the materials from AeroSeal, who actually is the company that owns the product Aero Barrier. So we were working with them and just took a little bit longer to get those materials to put the flyer together. So we'll be looking to get that put together in addition to the enrollment application, hopefully here by the end of the month. We will need some additional feedback once those items are ready to go. So just, letting AeroSeal take a look at the flyer we've put together. And then on the enrollment application, we'll just need to run it by our legal team just to make sure everything looks good there. Another portion that we're working on is identifying contractors for blower door testing, specifically in Zone 2. There is some potential that we will actually perform the testing in Zone 2 in-house. So that would look like myself or Sheila and maybe some other team members going out for the testing. We are BPI certified, so all good to run the blower doors. BPC has offered to potentially help us out with loaning the equipment, so or renting it from them, and is willing to also cover blower door testing in Zone 1. And then Sustainable Living Center, who is the vendor we work with over in Zone 3 on the east side of the state, has also agreed to help us out with the blower door testing over there. To cover why that's important is we really want to make sure that we have a third party verifying the air sealing results that we see from the pilot. So for those that aren't aware, it is a pilot that incentivizes the use of the product called Aero Barrier, which is an aerosolized sealant. You put a blower door on the front of the house and you fill the air with the aerosolized sealant and then pressurize the home. And that blows that sealant out into all of the little cracks that are in the building envelope. And it's great for achieving consistent air sealing results in new homes. But again, one of the things is we really want to make sure that we're verifying the results that we see there, because we're looking for this to provide some good data to help us develop our own air sealing rebate in new homes specifically, right? We already have one for existing homes. So this is one we're looking at for new homes. So getting that third party verification will be important. Having us perform the testing may run up against that somewhat. So we'll just have to see how it all plays out. We're still trying to identify contractors for Zone 2. And then we'll also need to develop a survey for the pilot participants. That being said, that portion is still somewhat off. We haven't got any participants in the pilot yet. And so we'll need to have that ready when we do. And then just a little bit more background. The incentive will be a $2,000 incentive, and it will be for up to 30 homes in our service territory. And so pretty much, if you participate in the program and install Aero Barrier in a new home, then we'll have a $2,000 incentive. It is a pilot. It's not tied to any specific energy savings. The goal is really to understand the feasibility of developing a prescriptive rebate for air sealing in new homes. That is what we're looking at. I'll just pause here and see if there's any questions on the progress there or about the pilot or product itself. Well, thank you. And yeah, really looking forward to having some more exciting news to share here on our next quarterly meeting. So stay tuned.
Thank you, John. Great work on it. We're excited to see it come to fruition. All right. So I'm going to go to the 2023 CPA kickoff. I'm going to ask Caleb to go ahead and lead this conversation. Caleb?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for the handout here, Monica. So I just got a couple of slides here to share with those on the phone call. When we're talking about the 2023 Conservation Potential Assessment, the goal is to give an outline of what it is, why we're doing it, and also hopefully spark a robust conversation about what the plan is for 2023 and perhaps any suggestions this group has for us as well. So in summary for this upcoming Conservation Potential Assessment, it's why are we doing it? It's a requirement of the most recent Biome Conservation Plan, the conditions document for it. We must do a cumulative 10-year conservation potential assessment every 2 years. And it's to identify all the conservation resources that are both cost-effective and available. Of course, both of those are huge factors in if we can actually offer something to our ratepayers. And really the secondary goal for our team in particular is that knowledge tool. We've mentioned it quite a bit throughout this phone call, talking about the BCP, some of the annual processes we do as well. It provides savings assumptions, possible measures, and things like future impacts that are coming our way, such as these code changes we're talking about. That's why we're looking at this upcoming conservation potential assessment, the ability to navigate code changes and ask those what-if questions to give our team some more knowledge will be pretty important for us. We know it's going to be used as an input to upcoming integrated resource plans, as well as that BCP. And we've mentioned a couple of times, AEG, Applied Energy Group, is our current vendor and our previous vendor as well. They used a load map modeling tool for the software to produce the conservation potential assessment and also provide us with updates and answer some questions when they come our direction. So the action item for this slide is in the intent for us to disperse an RFP this month for the work to be completed in 2023. Monica, if we go to the next slide here. Yeah, and on this screen, we've got draft time on the screen. You'll see for the CPA process starting really after this phone call. The timeline culminates with submission of the document to the WTC and, of course, to this group slightly before then. By the WTC will be in June, and it's really about that last biennial conservation plan conditions document where those dates are coming from. If you look at the draft timeline and look at some of the dates that are on there, we're really requesting some strong feedback and suggestions from the group on how we should best execute this process. You'll see it's pretty tight. There's actually just a few months to complete the study based on this timeline to be submitted by the first day of June. And speaking with our current CPA vendor, which once again is AEG, they've been really good at communicating with us throughout the process. We've actually been in contact with them since either late October, early November, after our last conservation meeting, to talk about what it's going to be looking like going forward, to advise them of this coming, and also to give us a little information. To their best estimate, it's about a 6-month process from project kickoff to completion to actually execute a full-on conservation potential assessment. So as we mentioned here, with that 6-month, one option for us is to disperse an RFP for this work as soon as possible. We get that out here in the next couple of weeks. And it's the expectation of about a 6-month delivery according to what AEG has provided us. It would look like an extended delivery in the quarter 3 of this year, and it's really going to require a revision to our submission date. That's what it's looking like. Of note, one thing that we've actually mentioned in the past, and it's really keen on our radar, our sister company, which is Intermountain Gas, they actually just underwent a really similar study. They've undergone this. They're used to receiving about 30 proposals for a similar project like this. And I understand it was almost like pulling teeth to get one. So they're actually looking at some different options going forward for what the best path is. Monica, what would you like to share?
Thank you, Caleb. So for some context, back when we were first talking about this whole BCP process, even before that, we had talked about Cascade using AEG for not going to do an actual RFP for the last iteration of our conservation potential assessment, but using our existing vendor AEG at that point and doing an update to our processes. And then the plan was for Cascade to go forward with an RFP as we're proposing here for either for AEG to reply to that RFP, or for an alternative vendor to reply and then be awarded the conservation potential assessment for this biennial plan. What Caleb is noting here is the timeline that we have to meet the submission date requirements for the WUTC is likely too tight to actually meet that requirement based on what we're hearing from our existing CPA vendor. They're not the only vendor out there. There are others who could potentially meet this requirement. Having said that, we just have some experience with working with our sister company, IGC, and that's what Caleb is saying, is IGC just put out all the acronyms. Intermountain Gas Company just put out a conservation potential assessment in the last couple of months, a request for proposal for their conservation potential assessment, and they got 0 responses. And they sent it to essentially the same group that we would typically use for our dispersal of our request for proposal. They had to go back, they reissued it, and then I think they had to go to an existing vendor that they used for something else and say, hey, are you interested in doing a CPA, because we need someone to do a CPA. So they did get a respondent finally, but the responses were very, very minimal, to the point where they had to reissue a couple times. And unfortunately, in the timeline we have, we don't have time to reissue. We are proposing here to send out an RFP. As Caleb mentioned, we connected with a Applied Energy group and asked, one of the questions we asked is, if we put out a request for proposal, are you interested in replying to it? Are you interested in working with Cascade again, updating our conservation potential assessment? Is that something that you have the time and resources to be able to accommodate? And our understanding is that, yes, they are still interested in it. As part of those conversations, that's where Caleb opened up the door to say, okay, so really what's the timeline on something like that? And they replied to us with their response. And that's, again, where Caleb is coming from, is it's 4 to 6 months, depending on what we use as the baseline, closer to the 4-month, assuming that they were elected for the RFP and that they were able to use the existing, essentially an update versus a brand new CPA starting off with a different baseline date. So our ask of the of our group, our conservation advisory group, is the requirement to go out specifically for an RFP was through the advisory group. So that's one of our questions. Is it possible for us to continue with AEG for this next iteration of the conservation potential assessment without going out for a full request for proposal? That's one thing that we wanted to chat about really quick. In addition, if that's not viable, it's very unlikely we're going to be able to meet this deadline for submission of the CPA. So we would need to speak with the commission staff, Jade, with your group, on what it would look like to get a slight extension to that to be able to accommodate submission of the CPA so that we can meet our biennial conservation plan requirements. The other thing that's in the back of our mind is we just may not get many responses. AEG may very well be the only one, in which case, yes, we've gone through those steps, but they're still going to be running into this requirement of, hey, we still need 4 to 6 months. And now we've spent the time on the RFP, and that's taken a month out of the process timeline that we have. So I'll stop there. I'll send it back to you, Caleb, but I wanted to clarify a little bit some of that background and the specific items that we need to address with the group here.
Yeah, thanks, Monica. It's a great hone in and it's completely accurate. It's really, we've got options of how we can do things. There's ways to tailor it down to about a 4-month time span, like you mentioned, using that base year of 2019, which it actually might make sense, especially considering that was called a pre-COVID year. We know some of the times we're interacting with these vendors, they actually require data from 2019 because that's what a lot of their models are based off of. There's different things we can update, different ways we can go about it. It's really that question of, well, what's the best path forward? And we are looking for some feedback and some recommendations from this group because we want to make sure to execute exactly as we're requested of.
Hey, this is Jade from the UTC, and I'll just speak to a couple points here. So we have seen extensions before for CPAs just due to the third party's workload and not being able to meet, the established deadlines. That's not ideal, but it has happened in the past. And then kind of along the lines of what Amy's saying here, I don't think staff would have an issue with AEG being selected again, but they are seemingly taking over the CPA duties for just about all the utilities in Washington, and that could be problematic at a certain point. And I also have a slight concern with AEG giving Cascade the guidance that they won't meet the deadline unless AEG is selected for the work. Seems slightly conflict of interest like, but I do hear the timeline concerns. Caleb, I see you're raising your hand there probably to address that last one.
Yeah, perhaps I misspoke or wasn't clear. And as far as what the request was from AEG, it was specifically what kind of time do you need? It wasn't can you meet this timeline? Now, of course, they can dig through BCP documents and figure out what it may be, but that was not a specific request for them. But I definitely agree with what you're saying there, Jade.
Got it. Thank you.
Thank you, Caleb, for that clarification. That's us jumping to solutions, I guess, Jade, is we're constantly looking at our timelines and us saying, okay, this is backward engineering. So and I completely understand with both what you and Amy are saying is AEG is not just doing Cascade. I know they worked on some stuff for Avista and I keep seeing their name come up over and over. So I think that's the reason why it was requested that we go out for an RFP initially. For this cycle, and we can still do that. I think it does risk our timeline even more for the biennial conservation plans. I guess one of the questions I have for you, Jade, is does the BCP require that we do a request for a proposal, or can we base feedback from our advisory group and move forward on this front this time around?
Yeah, that's a great question. I'm gonna have to dig back into those BCP conditions and just make sure I'm completely clear on the language, because as we know with the annual report issue, that can be misleading sometimes. So I'll dive into that and circle back with you just to confirm whether or not an RFP is actually required, or if the advisory group agreeing on AEG would be acceptable.
Okay. And I will also say AEG said they were interested. They haven't signed off on anything, agreeing that absolutely they'll do it. So this would be our next step would be to essentially scope out what an RFP would be, so that we it wouldn't exactly be the RFP. It would be a scope. for what the CPA would look like, and then going to AEG and confirming that they are, and what their end timeline is, considering the beginning of when we would need them to start. So no 100% guarantees from AEG, but this is our recommendation. So Jade, when do you think you would be able to get back to us so that we can take our next steps?
I think I could circle back probably by the end of this week.
And then to Amy's point as well, about making sure that we're exploring other vendor options or other not just sole sourcing potential assessments. We should track, obviously, in our advisory group notes that we will not just go out for an RFP, but that we will specifically look for an alternative vendor in the next CPA. Because of that, I do agree. I think there needs to be some variety, because you risk just kind of a regurgitation of the same thing over and over if you don't get some feedback from other sources as well. Any other concerns from our advisory group? Okay, Jade, we'll wait to hear back from you on that just to confirm. Otherwise, our proposal is to move forward with working with scoping this out, and then trying to work with AEG so that we can get our conservation potential updated in time to meet the biennial conservation plan deadline. We may need to circle back around with you, Jade, if AEG comes back and says, yeah, but we can't start for the next 2 months, because that would push it back a little bit. I'm guessing that we would at least have draft numbers to work on the BCP before, if they did need to push back the deadline, but hopefully we won't have to go down that route, but we will definitely work with you on what that would need to be if for some reason we had to look for an extension of that timeline.
That sounds good, Monica. Thank you.
Thank you. Caleb, anything further on that front?
No, it's great. This is the conversation I was hoping to have, so I appreciate the insight.
Thank you for that. I appreciate it. So I'm just going to go to the last item here in our next 2 minutes. We have our meeting cadence for the rest of this year. We've got, I think I actually mentioned this at the beginning, but our next meeting is going to be held in April. We'll be able to discuss kind of just progress on our annual report at that point. Obviously, we'll be in the middle of the CPA, we'll be in the middle of the evaluation, measurement, verification, and we'll be very deeply into impacts to our programs from the code change. What is that going to look like? How is that going to potentially change program offerings in July? So those will be some really robust conversations, and we're hoping to have it in person in Bellingham as well as via Teams. So it'd be nice to be able to have some face-to-face. And then, as I mentioned, we've got July here, Teams meeting, and then we will have that mid-cycle planning discussion. There are some specific items in the biennial conservation plan and deadlines that we need to meet, including getting the advisory group copies of our budget ahead of time, and what the measures are going to be, and all those different steps. So we actually need to have a meeting between advisory group meetings, standard quarterly meetings, to be able to meet those deadlines as well. So that's what this interim meeting date is. And then our final one at the end of the year will also have a hybrid option for. And typically those advisory group meetings are held on Wednesdays from 9 to 12, with the exception of the mid-cycle one. That one's going to be a little bit shorter. So I think that is it from me. I know I kind of took us right up here to the last minute. Are there any final questions or comments? We've got a couple of follow-up items, action items. We'll make sure to do those. Jade will be waiting for feedback on that item for the CPA. I will be sending our group here Friday that draft version of the annual plan. Again, it'll be a draft, so there might be a couple changes, but we'll get that out so that we can meet that requirement. And then I just really appreciate everybody's time. I know these are really dense and involved conversations, but it was great feedback from everybody, and I really appreciate the robust insights. So thank you, and until next time, I appreciate your time. Thank you.